I am Thor, son of Odin, and as long as there is life in my breast, I am running out of things to say.
Great, another broken white boy for us to fix.
That's my secret, Cat.
I'm always angry.
You took everything from me.
I don't even know who you are. With great power comes great responsibility. I can do this all day.
Wakanda forever!
And welcome, Internet, to another episode of Views from the 616, the Blackest MCU podcast in the multiverse, powered by For All Nerds, where we discuss everything in the MCU from the perspective of people of color. And it is one of your hosts, Tatiana King, a.k.a. Tesseract Thompson, a.k.a. Back from America, Doctor Doing Something Strange for Some Change, a.k.a. He Could Not Be Shamed, a.k.a. Doc Aki. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host.
It's your boy, DJ Benhameen, a.k.a. NBA Youngboy, never blipped again, Black the King Kirby, Tan the Manly, Briss Blairmont.
Okay.
Benhameen, the living amplifier, the planetoid paladin here in the spaceship tonight.
Sir,
welcome back.
Is that an off-brand version of Moonlight?
Basically, that's my space monkey version of, night monkey version of Moon Knight.
Gotcha. I don't know why I keep trying to say Moonlight Night. Like, I don't know. I'm thinking like of Sailor Moon or some shit. But anyway, we are back. I know you missed us. We missed you too. Views from the 616 in full effect. We are here to talk all things Moon Knight, which is the newest Disney Plus Marvel show out. By the time you're listening to this, you have at least seen the first episode. If you're lucky, like people like us, you've seen all 4 out of the 6 episodes of Moon Knight. If you want a spoiler-free viewpoint on what to expect from this series, then I guess at the 80% point, we do have something you can watch. Check out our YouTube, youtube.com/forallnerdstv. That's where you'll be able to see our 4-episode preview review. Is that right? Yeah.
Pretty much.
Moon Knight. And again, spoiler free. Otherwise, welcome to the review of the full spoiler filled review of episode 1. We have a basic plot and it goes a little something like this. Is it all a dream? Stephen Grant is wondering what's real and what isn't, as he discovers everything in his life isn't exactly what it seems, to say the least. Now, Moon Knight is a character comic created by Doug Mensch. Is that how you pronounce it?
Mensch. I'm not exactly sure on that one.
Doug and Don Perlin.
Yep.
The series on Disney Plus is being directed by Mohamed Diab, who is an Egyptian screenwriter and director. Very fitting that this is being directed by someone of Egyptian descent. Mohamed has this film out. I think it's called Cairo 686. I hope I didn't get the numbers wrong, but it follows a story of 3 Egyptian women who are fighting against the like sexual harassment issues there, and it just has really good reviews. And then what I know of him, why I really mess with him, because he had some choice words for Wonder Woman 1984 and their depiction of Egyptian in Egypt.
Who didn't?
To paraphrase, he mentions it was a disgrace. So I fucks with Muhammad. I appreciate you, sir. Also, Moon Knight has written the series, at least what we know, is written by Jeremy Slater, who is the head writer. There are many different writers in the room, but they also have a head writer there.
Yep.
All right. So, Ben, are you ready for
the themes
of
the episode? It's been a while.
It's been a while. We're going to get back to it, y'all. We're going to get back to being in sync. Let's go right into it, Ben. The first big theme, and this is interesting you pointed this out, the theme of redemption. This is going to be something that goes throughout this entire first episode. Talk about it, Ben.
Yes. All right. I noticed this after I watched it a couple times as we got ready for this, but both Stephen Grant and who seems to be the main antagonist of the series, Harrow, played by Ethan Hawke, are on a redemption arc, right? Harrow wants redemption for what's happened in his past, as we'll see more of that later. But we definitely get this right away. You know, my man is definitely pissed about things that have happened. And he's on, let's talk about Harrow real quick for a second. My man is on a wild path that, like, I could not, you know, and someone pointed out to me, well, you agree with Thanos, you know, for the most part, you say Thanos is right, and Harrow isn't that much different. And I'm like,
Harrow is giving me super white man cult leader.
Yes.
This comet is coming to take us away tease.
Yeah.
Like, big time.
But his overall plan is basically make the world a better place. You know, everyone have a Coke and a smile. But I cannot get with Harrow at all. But he definitely wants, you know, redemption for what has gone on, right?
Okay.
Steven wants redemption or perhaps even some recognition for who he is now and what's happening right now in his life. He's basically, you know, it's like the classic, like, 1980s, you know, nerd film where it's the guy who's like, you know, the girl would like me if they just knew how smart I was. You know, that's basically Steven right now. Like, he's definitely kind of the nice guy, you know. I mean, he has serious issues, which is a part of it, but his own persona is, you know, kind of like, I mean, it's like, you know, you playing that sucker role, they if only they knew. And I'm like, I don't know, man. You need to be more like, you know, your AKA over here, fam. You know, he gets it done.
And as we discover, they also may be two sides of the same coin because they're both getting effed over by some Egyptian gods, some higher power thereof.
Yes. Both of them feel like life is giving them a raw deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it ain't going well for them.
Yeah. And I don't know, like when I read this and you said like redemption, I was like, I mean, I understood for Harrow, but I'm like, what exactly is Steven being redeemed from? Just being a loser? Like, what?
I mean,
what
yes. Like, you know, he personally wants to be redeemed from being a loser. Yes. Like, you think my man wants to go on like this? Like, he is struggling. My man wakes up chained to his bed, got sand laid out around the joint. You know, like, this man is living a rough life, got all these books. You know, he's like, oh, look, you know, you're wrong about this, you know, boss lady. You don't know anything. You know, this is the truth. And she's like, whatever, but you get back and sell some, you know, more gifts up there.
Get back in line, you mark-ass bitch.
Yeah, like, who cares? You know, so yes, he wants redemption. He wants recognition. You know, he wants people to understand that he's a good guy, that he's dope too, you know? And yeah, nah.
I think then it's more of the latter word you said, recognition.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's also redemption because he wants to be redeemed for where his life has been. And he feels like, you know, that's the thing. He's one of those people right now who feels like he should be higher than what he is. But because of circumstance and stuff, because he has these issues that he doesn't understand and he knows he has them, he's like, yo, this is where my life is at, but I shouldn't be in this position.
Yeah.
You know? I'm special.
I'm special, mister.
Yes.
Okay.
If only they would watch, you know, if only they knew.
Man, you're really making him seem like the biggest loser ever. I mean,
it's like he has these issues to go along with it. Yes, that goes without saying. And maybe those issues have created this persona. I mean, that's another thing we're going to talk about because maybe he is just a creation.
Maybe. And you know what? That makes me skip down to another theme that we've identified, which is really, it's more than just a theme. It is the DNA of this character from both the comics and as we are seeing and we'll see as we continue onto this show, the mental disorder called dissociative identity disorder or DID. First of all, this and let me be very clear. I don't believe Benhameen. I don't believe he's Dr. Benhameen. We don't have a background in psychology or anything like that. Anything that I've learned is through.
I did go to a high school for health professions and worked in a mental hospital. That's about
we're gonna have to talk about that one day.
Yeah, that's about my only experience.
Let me find out you worked in Arkham Asylum. Okay, Benhameen. So
and even better, it's this mental institution is right across the street from my childhood home.
Oh no, we got to talk about this or write a really good screenplay about it. But that's neither here nor there.
Yes.
The things that I've learned about it is because I actually went and read some academic papers, some academic white papers. Even looked at because you know textbooks are online. You can look at textbooks like psychology textbooks from college and shit like that. And what we know of it is dissociative identity disorder is a mental health condition. Someone with DID has multiple distinct personalities, and these are various identities that can control a person's behavior at times. The condition can cause memory loss, delusions, or depressions, and DID is usually caused by some form of past trauma. In the white papers, they tend to say that it usually happens within childhood at some point, and if not childhood, just something just very super, super traumatic. Because and we are seeing the makings of that with this first episode, as you're introduced to and let me say maybe halfway through the episode, you notice that like he has that blackout where he wakes up in the field, and he meaning Steven, he wakes up in the field, has no idea how he got there, what's going on, and really where he is and all this other stuff. And then as that sequence from the field to the village go on, you see him start to do and say things that not only does he not have recollection of, but he doesn't seem to have control over. And that is one of the many paramount symptoms of DID. And it also kind of started making me think about how Hollywood has interpreted DID, like how they interpreted or even misinterpreted it in a lot of films, shows. Most cases it's misinterpreted, or they mix in a lot of different things. Because if you really look at the science behind DID, and then you see how it's depicted in entertainment, it's a lot of different unrelated things that they push in together. But that being said, one of the main things that I saw that is a big difference is like DID patients in entertainment, they're often depicted as aggressive and very violent, where studies show that very rarely are they even in that way. But every single film that I pulled or that came to memory, that displayed a character with this, they were always violent, or they had some like flip out mode that happened to them, and that was like the whole premise of the film, right? Case in point, Split, starring James McAvoy, directed by M. Night Shyamalan. A twist, right? This man,
we already know.
If you haven't seen this film, it came out in 2016. Go watch this film. It is interesting, but my thing is it also got a big backlash from the mental health community because of what I just said, that it was just depicting that if you have DID, automatically you must be this horrible, violent person, and two, because it was just in their head, it was a cartoonish way of depicting that.
Save yourself and don't watch this film.
Maybe. Do you think this this episode anyway is giving you shades of Split?
Oh, I would hope not.
Well, what do you think based on the first episode? What you saw?
Not based on the first episode, but like I said on our overall review of the first 4 episodes, I do feel like Moon Knight has an issue with tone, and that is one of the things, especially when dealing with this dissociative
identity disorder, or DID.
Yeah, or DID. When you're dealing with that, and you're dealing with the level of violence that Moon Knight brings to the table, and just the general history of this character, I did have some issues. And that tone stuff does show up in the first episode, and it's also just kind of a hallmark of Marvel. And this is the one where I was kind of hoping that they might get away from that for a second, and
well,
not so much. I think they've done it before, though, like with WandaVision. WandaVision didn't really have they had a lot of jokes and stuff because of the first episode setting during the sitcom. But once it got into it, Like, them last few episodes weren't very jokey. It was like, it was going down.
No, it wasn't very jokey, but but also, like, there were, just like with a lot of these shows, there were some questionable points anyway. There was just some questionable delivery.
Nothing's perfect.
Like that season finale wasn't all that. But
no, we know that.
Right. But I hear you. I hear you what you're saying. But like I said, like just the aspect of how DID has been portrayed in media. Like I mentioned Split, Fight Club, Ed Norton, Brad Pitt.
Well, there is this idea of Moon Knight. We have one personality who's very much I wish people would see me. And there's the other personality who's like, look, you see me, right? You know who I am. I'm Kevin Durant. You know, there's that personality.
Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
Tyler Durden.
He once said that. He was like, yo, you know who I am. I'm Kevin Durant.
Oh, he
you know?
did? Okay.
Yeah, like, you
That's
know.
funny. That's funny. The Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, that classic story. Yep. And then, like I said, like lots of times Hollywood throws in different, it may not be DID, but they're throwing symptoms of other situations. Like if you look at films like Black Swan, which is actually one of my favorite films. I actually really like Black Swan, starring Natalie Portman. That features psychosis. And psychosis is just, it's a condition in which the way your brain processes information. So you may see or hear or believe things that are happening that are actually not. And a psychosis, as they say, is a symptom, not an illness. And I feel like we still get pieces of that within Moon Knight, within this first episode.
Is Black Swan Darren Aronofsky?
Darren Aronofsky, yeah.
Yeah, he did, oh man, his first film ever is Pi, which really ruined me when I first saw it because I felt like somebody took a piece of some of my nightmares and put it on screen because you want to talk about a film about psychosis and about probably every type of mental illness there is. Whew. Yeah.
Let's talk about that, man.
That one hit me. And like, even you just talking now about this, like talking about the trauma, because I feel like there's a traumatic event in this series that is going to hit very close to home for me. And when you're talking about that, this was caused by trauma and my own issues with mental health over the last years, you know, due to trauma and stuff, I'm like, thank God, you know, like they say there, but for the grace of God, I go because, whoo.
Yeah, it's a lot. And of course, this differs from what we learn in the comics. Like we've mentioned in our preview review, how in the comics, just this guy, Mark Spector, he developed all of these personality, well, let's say alters. He developed these due to like trying to, in a way, he was method acting a little too hard.
Yes.
And something snapped. And that's where we are now. But but typically when people display this, again, it's something very traumatic and something very deep-seated within childhood. And just so I could give everyone just an understanding of like what I mean by alters, like they say when they call them different personalities and stuff. The thing is, each of these alters, they can be completely different from the main person, or the patient is what they usually call them, right? They could have their own memories. They could distinguish their own action experience from the other alters. They have a sense of ownership of their own lives and actions and thoughts, completely separate. So have that understanding when you continue watching this series, Moon Knight.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of comparisons will be made to this series to another series that featured superheroes and mental health, and that's Legion, which was on FX. And because as this is another topic we're going to talk about, unreliable narrators, that series also featured one heavily, a very, very, very unreliable narrator. Yeah. So, you know, it's good to see this on the main Marvel stage right now with Moon Knight. And I think that that's something I want to advise people against too. Like, we're going to have to wait to see all of these episodes to really understand what the writers are doing with this.
Yeah.
Like, even more so than any other series that Marvel's done in the past. But I always say that. You know, I always tell people, like, yo, chill. People are like, they don't know what they're doing 3 episodes in. And I'm like, how do you know? Because there's a 6-episode arc. So how do you know if they don't know what they're doing 3 episodes in? You don't. Anyway.
You don't.
Yeah, so this even more so because it's a lot of stuff that might be recontextualized by what we see in all of the episodes.
And you already mentioned it, Ben. That's the next theme, actually, that literary device of the unreliable narrator. That's one of the first things that concept that came to mind as I watched the first episode. And just to define that, an unreliable narrator is an untrustworthy storyteller. It's typically used in narratives with a first-person point of view. And what that unreliable narrator is they're either deliberately or unintentionally deceptive or even misguided. Like they're not even sure what they're talking about. And it forces the audience or the reader to question the credibility of the storyteller. Now, it's a really, like, if you think about some of the films I just mentioned, like for example, if you think about Fight Club, that's done in the narrative perspective, the first person perspective. And when you use that as a literary device, it gives you another dimension to what you're watching. And it also helps to lend to kind of the concept of a thriller and a mind a show or film that is very heady, right? Like, am I seeing what I think I'm seeing? Am I watching what I think I'm watching? And many times puts you in the shoes of that character, right? Like if you say, for example, we believe that this guy, Steven, is suffering from DID, pretty much you start becoming Steven himself, right? You're seeing the life through his eyes and he's telling you, because you're in his perspective, this is what he's telling you is happening, but then things change. Or he's seeing things that's not really there. Or it seems like they're not really there. Like, for example, that scene in the first episode where he was in the elevator and the elevator doors open. And it was so scary, but also so hilarious, where he swore this monster was coming towards him and he was screaming out of his mind. And it was just an old lady getting on the elevator. Mm-hmm. And she was scared of him. Like, look at this psycho. You know what I mean? Like, it's things like that that make you question, wait a minute, can I trust Steven? Can I trust what I'm seeing? Can I trust what he's saying? Does he know what's going on? And I just, and it's, when done well, it's an incredibly just powerful literary device, the unreliable narrator. Yes.
Another great example of it, and one of the most classic examples of it, is Rashomon, the Akira Kurosawa film, which features 3 different people telling you the same story, but none of their stories are the true story. You know, it's a combination of what all 3 have told that is the actual truth, but it's up to the viewer to decide what is the actual truth. And when all 3 have told their story, that's it. There's no more story to really be told.
Right. And stories like that, I love, and it absolutely pisses me off at the same time, because I'm the type who, I want the truth. Tell me the truth. Give me the red pill, right? Like, I want to know
but there is no truth.
Right. And that, again, the Schrodinger cat, there's no truth and there is the truth. Like that idea of everything being true at once just makes my mind explode every time. And it's like, it's so cool to have stories like that are good, because it makes you talk about it, right? It makes you discuss and think of different concepts, but it also drives me up the wall every time.
Something that, this is like semi-related to unreliable narrators, but something that made me think about reality and question reality itself is there's a philosophy exercise, imagine life as a bat, right? And a bat doesn't have sight the way we have sight. You know, it can barely see. It experiences life mainly through sonar. So its reality is so alien to us, to a human's reality, that it might as well be from another planet. Because the way it experiences Earth is completely alien to our senses. So its life is completely alien to ours. So it's like, because of that, it's like reality is subjective. So for someone like Moon Knight, who is experiencing reality through multiple or, you know, DID, along with, you know, various gods speaking to them and, you know, and giving them visions, you know, on top of their own mental illnesses, it's all very unreliable and it's all very interesting. And that is something that I'm, you know, very happy to see in this series, because the comics have done that very well. The Jeff Lemire series about Moon Knight especially had this semi-antagonism from, you know, Khonshu and Mark and whoever else. And we see that in the very first episode, where doesn't he call him a dumbass at one point?
Oh, we're going to get into that. I got all the names he called him.
Yeah, I love all that.
Towards what we're saying about, like, just seeing things and not sure what's going on and unreliability, it also begs the theme, is it all a dream, right? That's another device that had been used, and sometimes to terrible effect, and sometimes it's just an easy out, like when you write yourself into a corner, but like saying that, oh, and it was the person, you know, all these terrible things happen, but then the character wakes up and it was all a dream, right?
Yeah. People of a certain age, I never even watched the show, but there was an old school show, Dallas, right, where they erased a whole season and had a motherfucker wake up.
Wow.
Like, this important character, I can't remember the name, had been killed. They had a whole season. Simpsons parodied it when they was like, who shot JR, right? Who shot JR was on Dallas. Simpsons did who shot the dude who owns the nuclear power plant.
Okay.
The dude was dead. You know, they had a whole season of it, and then like
basically took it all back because they say, "Oh, it was just a dream."
Because that character was too popular, and they had to bring it back. And so,
wow. Well, that concept is already being employed, but to different degree, not to terrible degree, but it's already being employed in the first episode because, as I mentioned, we're already shown how there's things he doesn't remember doing or saying, even things that are contrary to his person, right? Case in point, when he goes to work at the museum and the hottie comes up to him like, so we're still on for our date on Friday. And he's like, girl, what date?
Look.
And I'm like, you idiot. Just play like you know. Just play like you know.
Thank you. You can already tell. See, you say, I called him a loser. You just called him an idiot. Because that's what I'm saying. This man has no game. I get it.
Oh my God, just roll with it.
That's why I feel like he is the alter and not the dominant personality, because I feel like he, it's just like spun from thin air. Like, he ain't got nothing going. I get it. You got issues.
Steven lint. He's just lint.
Yeah, he just lint. He is spun from wheat cloth because he ain't got much going on right there. Like, it's just like,
yo, you treat him worse than Khonshu. God damn.
I'm sorry, but if he if you was a full-fledged personality, you would have had something right there, like, oh, shorty, right, I'll catch you, no.
He could have just rolled with it, but nah, he was like, what are you talking about?
Especially that one, dog. Come on.
But he's not that smooth, okay? But like in reality, if someone came to you like, oh, we're doing XYZ, you'd be like, and you really did not know, you'd be like, what the F are you talking about? That may not have been a good scenario to do that in, but in
see
most
my face
cases,
right now.
I know. But in most cases, you'd be like, what are you talking about? What's going on? So anyway, he doesn't even remember asking his coworker on a date, let alone that he asked her for a date to a steak restaurant. The man is a vegan.
Yeah. And I understand that.
I was like, oh, something's wrong. Something's terribly wrong here. And even again, and that's, when I think about it, the depth and vastness of this first episode, because so much happened besides just establishing the story and the character, just so much action and different movements has happened. And again, you're sitting in the seat of this guy where you don't know if you can trust what he's seeing or even saying. Case again, he wakes up when there's that huge chase scene down the mountain. He's in a cupcake car. All right, it's a colorful cupcake car. It's mad bright, middle of the day. He's doing some Jason Statham backwards car driving, shooting out the windows, Fast and Furious, the logs is falling off the truck, like the wildest shit. Honestly, this looks like a Fast and Furious situation. And then he wakes up, oh, it's just a dream.
And when he wakes up, his foot is still locked to the bed. Like everything, all the preparations that he sets up every night, we're back to normal. Something
is terribly wrong. But like I said, that idea, this concept of everything is a dream, everything's a dream. You see him, speaking of dreams, to dream, you have to be asleep, right? This man actively does things to stay awake. He listens to this recording called Keeping Awake or Staying Awake or whatever. He does mind puzzles. Like you see him doing a Rubik's Cube with one hand. He is reading, like incessant, excessive reading. He's doing everything he can not to sleep because, and they don't really say so, but I just imagine as much that he feels he has a sleeping disorder, right? Where he sleepwalks, and that's why he chains himself to his bed. That's why he has the sand around his bed so he can see if he's been walking around. That's why he has the tape on his door to make sure that if he's got an hour, even, and all the locks too. But clearly that shit ain't working because because as we later found out, everything that happened with that chase had to have been real.
Does it?
Or did it? We see them, and that's what I'm saying. We see what's his face? We see Harrow. We see Ethan Hawke come to his job, and we see Steven go, oh shit, this is real. I did see that guy in the village. Da 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 da. So was it a dream or did it happen? My thing is the sand isn't disturbed around his bed. The locks are still on the door. All this stuff is still like nobody moved.
See, that's what I'm saying. Is this the exhibit? We know you love dreams, so we put a dream within your dream, dog. Like that's the thing. We don't know what is real yet. That's why I said again, wait for all 6 episodes. What we've seen so far,
level of the Inception.
Yeah, we can say that right now, from what we know, yes, all this happened. Another personality took over. got his ass back in bed, cleaned up the sand, etc., did all the things because this other personality is aware of what Steven is doing. So, you know, that's what we can say so far. Right? Yeah.
I agree.
I mean,
And-
we know the other
yeah.
we know the other personality's name, right? We can even say that at this point. He's named in this episode.
They named it. Oh yeah, they called him Mark.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We know about
we already
Mark.
said that. We already said the name Mark. But
Yeah.
But the fact is, like, it's still questionable. Everything that's happened is questionable, and
Still.
it's still everything feels dream. And really, like I said, the reason why I mentioned how wild that chase was because
Yeah.
it was dreamlike within itself. That's the type of dreams I be having, bro.
A dude leapt from his car to the back of this truck. Like, it was some wild. That's even pushing Fast and Furious level. And we all know Fast and Furious is superheroes.
And even though it's MCU, right? And even though it's MCU, like, we're not dealing, at least not yet, we're not dealing with powered individuals. We're dealing with human beings. So for that, like you said, that stuff to be happening, it's like, okay, that's questionable. And also just rounding out the theme of it was all a dream. Steven does not seem to recognize when he is awake versus when he is dreaming. As we see these situations, as the first episode goes on, they bleed into each other. Before, there seemed to be, at least, again, these all could be lies, unreliable narrator. It seemed like you would know when he's awake, when he's going to work, when he's coming back home. But then as it goes along, you see these situations start bleeding into each other. Like, he just wakes up. Or you know, he blacks out and he comes back and he's someplace else. Like, there's no line of delineation. So it's like, is he awake or is he not?
A really brilliant use of that, and I think this is an homage to it, is the first Matrix film. Is in when Neo is being accosted by the agents and they do the thing where his mouth turns into stretchy fibers and then they stick the thing in his stomach and he sees it crawling through his stomach and then he wakes up and you're like, it's so quick. It's like, whack.
So quick.
He just wakes up and you're like, oh, wait, was all that real?
It goes through his belly button, yeah.
Yep, until Morpheus pulls that out of his stomach and then the audience and Neo at the same time are like, oh, that was real. This shit is a weird ass movie.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes, absolutely. And that's why it's one of my favorite movies of all time. But yes.
Brilliant. Yep. And I think that was a homage to when, you know, I mean, I mean, it's been done many a time, but that was a real great one when the, you know, avalanche is falling on this man. He's like, oh, and then he just jumps up in bed. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And that's how typically how you wake up in the dreams, right? It's like at the most climactic point. Or something, just something that you just can't imagine that's going down, and then you jump awake.
The other night, a rat ran across my face in a dream, and I jumped in bed.
Hell no!
Like, I literally jumped awake.
Yeah, that's when like typically not rigor mortis, but typically the what is that called?
It should have been rigor mortis for me because I was dead. Damn it, I was done.
What's that called when you're laying in bed and like you can't move your limbs because your body hasn't fully woken up yet? Like those are not
sleep paralysis.
Sleep paralysis. Yeah. Right. You broke out of that shit.
Broke out of it. I jumped in bed, literally. Jumped up like 2 feet out of bed. It was
Wow.
Oof. All right.
One of the last themes is that Egyptian mythology, obviously. So in the comics, that's one of the main things, right? This guy, he becomes homeboys with somewhat like, you know, indentured servant to an Egyptian guy called Khonshu, right?
Yeah.
And that gets Khonshu shows up in here. We really don't know the relationship quite yet about what's happening. But you do see, as I mentioned, because Steven is like about not sleeping, he is about that life of staying up all night. He reads Egyptian shit. Day 25/8, this man is reading about some Egyptian mythology stuff or anything surrounding Egypt, right? There was this like that scene where he's awake and he's scrolling through stuff. I was watching or reading some of the books that he was in, and there was one area where it said the rift between gods and man. Yep. And you see that theme repeated in other cultures like Greek culture, Roman culture, the myths, where and even American gods. Benhameen, what up?
Thank you.
Writer extraordinaire. Humans stop revering gods, so the gods abandon man. And all of the implications thereof. So you're gonna see. So I mean, that was really a big hint right there. But you're gonna see that that theme or that understanding repeated throughout this series. I know it for sure. Or you're gonna see it manifest in different ways of that rift, right? Of how God serves man or vice versa. And again, in this case, within Egyptian mythology.
Yep. And another thing we see in that reading montage is the word ignored very much highlighted. And that goes back to like what I was saying, and this man being on his redemption arc because he has been ignored all his, whatever short existence his life is. And I really feel like Steven has been here for like 10 months at most. Like, but I mean he had enough time to fill that apartment with books. I'll give him 2 years, 3 years. That's about it.
I don't know.
I feel like Mark's the one. Like, I just don't know. It just feels like this man
you see this man is getting a lot done within 2 days. So, because remember and that's another thing. When he went on his I don't know, Fast and Furious chase, that was 2 days removed from the day he was supposed to be on a date.
Yeah, so that was Mark's time. Mark had 2 days. Steven, like right then he had 2 days. Like, how much time of this man's life is Steven? I'm telling you, Steven, I feel like something happened to Mark and Steven's a new development. That's how I feel.
Okay. All right.
But then there's the question, and this is something big, because we do see Steven making a phone call to his mother in this episode.
Yes.
When he F's up with a date, he calls his mom's up.
He was talking to her earlier too. He was
talking to her earlier as he's leaving the apartment when he's getting played again, because at the beginning of the episode it was a great introduction to Steven because you see him get played over and over again. And
the bus plays him, the guy standing in front of his apartment with the brooms.
He gets played when he gets to work, he gets played at home, he gets played everywhere in life. So that was really great as writers. Let me point out something, because it was all shown to you, right? You don't have to say a word. Everything was shown to you, how he gets played everywhere he goes. Yeah. So great. So we already established Steven gets played, So that's the thing. It's like, I don't know how long this man has really been here, because it's like he just shows up and gets played. But
okay, well that's something to think about.
Yes.
And we can continue on since we're talking about Steven. Let's get into the characters. So we know of, and again, this is because of they named the names, but also because of comics. We have Steven Grant, which is he lives in London. Seems to be British. He's a loser and a loner, obsessed with Egyptology, and he talks to living statues that don't talk back. He might as well be talking to a mime. Right?
He does.
Yes.
Oscar Isaac has said that he is doing the voice of a northeastern Jewish man from London. I've spoken to some people from London. They have questions. They have a lot of questions.
It can't be as bad as like Bushmaster trying to do a Jamaican accent.
Lot of questions. I'm not gonna name names of who I've spoken to, but they are definitely born and bred, and they've got questions. Born and
bred would really know, right? Like me as an American, I'm like, oh, that sounds good. Like, I'm just like, that doesn't sound like me trying to do a British accent, which is horrible.
definitely not me trying to do a British accent, but I had questions. Knowing that, like I said, when I spent that time, I got to meet a lot of, very closely. I'm friends with, a lot of British people. So his inflection is just super weird, but I wasn't sure if that was just because that's that like mild manneredness of Steven, but it's super weird. And I know some mild mannered Brits and they still don't sound like this dude. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. He's a mild mannered guy, and he's at the end of the day, he really is a good person. He's a nice person. He wouldn't, as they say, the euphemism, you wouldn't hurt a fly. It's just that he doesn't stand up for himself, and he has I don't know if he has such a spine until like you see some of that come out, but I wonder if that's just because his alters are like affecting him, right? And speaking of alters, we have Mark Spector. In the comics, that is the name of that's the main character's name. That's the guy who is Moon Knight, right? That's the guy who is this caped, I don't want to even call him Cape Crusader. I don't even know what to call. Would you call yourself the Lunar Paladin or whatever? he's
the Planetoid Paladin.
The Planetoid Paladin, right? Yeah. So Mark, from the comics, he's a former Marine. He's a mercenary. As we see in the show, he can kill multiple people in seconds, let the bodies hit the floor, and what I've seen is he controls Steven's body during times of intense stress or life-endangering moments, because every time Steven blacked out or every time like you saw like the screen change where Steven, like something ultra violent happened, he wasn't like, it was like Steven was like, well, how did that happen? That to me, that's Mark taking over.
Yes. Also, Mark takes over whenever he feels like it because he got Steven into that life-threatening situation. Steven was sleeping in his bed, and then Mark was like, all right, that's enough of that. Doop doo doo, we out. Doop doop, you know, violence and death. Oh, and then Steven Steven wakes up with his jaw dislocated, like, what the f?
Yeah. Yeah. And as we are starting to see, he seems to be communicating to Steven. Mark seems to be communicating to Steven through reflection. So like if Steven is staring long enough at a mirror or his reflection in glass or something like that, you see Mark, or you hear Mark. You see and hear Mark. Do you, once again, this goes back to, do you trust that this is what's really happening? I don't know. Is this man dreaming? Who the hell knows? I don't know. And then you also end up at literally one of the last frames of this episode, you see Moon Knight.
Well,
first of all, amazing translation to screen in terms of the cowl and the whole look, the mummy wraps, all that stuff.
The eyes, the glowing eyes.
Oh
did it for
man,
me.
the hood, everything was just perfect. You see Moon Knight tear apart I think it's a jackal. He tears that shit apart, tears the bathroom up too. And you know, again in his full regalia in that final sequence, that was just so cool to see that reveal just within the first episode. It was, again, why I'm like, yo, so much happened. And sometimes they have to, right? It's only 6 episodes, but sometimes they hold it to their chest until like towards the very end.
I mean, think of, you know, the days of Daredevil. We had to wait till the last episode to see Daredevil in his suit.
Yo!
You know, and this first episode, we get to see the mummy wraps flowing over the skin, everything, and then just
the way they materialize on fire. Like it gave me chills. It gave me like how when we first saw like with Black Panther, how you saw his suit materialize over his body. It was just so cool to see this version of this type of character and how their regalia materializes on them and how it envelops them and wraps them in that whole theme and style. Like it was fire.
And that was new for me because I'd yet to see Moon Knight do that in the comics. I'm not sure if that has become a more recent addition to his where he gets it down, but the Moon Knight I'd always knew, you know, put on the cape and cowl.
Gotcha.
Yep.
So Stephen Grant, Mark Spector, Moon Knight, all played by Oscar Isaac, who is an expert actor. His delivery in this first episode, I believed every single thing he did, which is also contrary to the character because I don't know if I trust this character, but I trust Oscar. He did that and is doing this.
Yes. Now, we got to talk about his mom because I'm going to surmise that his mom is not alive.
I thinking the same thing, and this is why. And I had this question in my notes. I said because we see him talking to his mom, I think twice, right? And first of all, I asked, is he really even talking to his mom? Is she even alive? And the reason why I said that is because it felt like the conversation was one-sided. Like if you're talking to a voicemail or even talking to yourself, like there weren't any real natural pauses between the things he was saying. And it wasn't like, even when you pretend that you're on the phone with someone, you pretend you have those pauses where you're waiting for them to respond. I didn't see or feel any of that. So I'm like, who's he talking to? Or is he even talking to anybody?
Unless he was leaving voicemails every time and it's going to be real that something else is going on with his mom. But I feel like that is that traumatic event. You know, having gone through my mom passing, it is, you know, and I've been through other traumatic events in my life. That was still the most and is the most. And you know, something that is for some people might, you know, drive them into what we've seen with him, the DID.
Yeah.
I
just thought, and I'm not going to say the full part of this, but I just again, when we just talked about him being a loser, like he even got little girls trolling him, bro. Like when Steven first walks into his job, into the museum, and he's just talking to her and talking to her about Egyptian mythology and the Field of Reeds. And, you know, he explains that's where people, you know, they get their hearts weighed and they're either judged that they can go to the Field of Reeds, which is the Egyptian afterlife, or if they get left behind, like the leftovers. And the girl looks at him and said, "Did it suck for you getting rejected from the Field of Reeds?" Now, this could just be her just outright trolling him because you can see she's a smartass. You can see how she's responding to him that she's just a fucking smartass. But also, could it also be interpretive of how she sees him? Is she like, does she, you know how they say kids can see the truth of a person and they can see who you really are and all that stuff? Can she see, like, if we know, from what we know, Steven is an alter, or maybe Mark is an alter, whoever's an alter, is she seeing that? And is that like a tongue-in-cheek reference to that?
Is it referring to the fact that Mark has already died and been judged and was rejected?
Is this once again, M. Night Shyamalan stuff where it's like, I see dead people? What is going on, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, Mark, you know, in the comics at least, dies. You know, he dies on the field of battle and Khonshu revives him. You know, that's how it goes down. So he dies and would be judged and would not get into the field of reeds because Khonshu's like, nah, you got to be the fist of vengeance.
You're not getting to heaven, nigga.
Nah, bro, you got work to do. You got to put in this work. You know what I mean? It ain't about no, you know, nah, heaven ain't for you, bro. Yeah, I mean, Mark Spector is not the dude who's getting into heaven anyway, especially if you know the Egyptian mythology. They take your heart out and put it on a scale and judge it against a ostrich feather.
The feather represents all that is righteous.
Most people are not making it, fam. I'm sorry. You know, I try and do good, but I'm looking at that, you know, Oblivion, you know, because...
Hell, looking about good right by now. That plot looks like that fit me.
I'm going to fade into Oblivion like Mike Tyson because that field of reeds is, it's looking tight, fam. You know, I got to do some more good in my life.
All right. Let's talk about Khonshu. Give me some information about this guy. Played by F. Murray Abraham, the voice anyway. Amazing
actor.
Let me tell you this. If there's one face that matches the voice, it is F. Murray Abraham. Like when he's like, I was listening to the voice, you know, this whole episode, and I went to IMDb to look at his face. I said, that looks like that man looks like that voice comes out of his mouth.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. The sarcasm, the scorn.
Everything.
All right. Khonshu is an Egyptian god, and Khonshu's name reflects the fact that the moon, referred to as Aya in Egyptian, travels across the night sky, for it means traveler, and also had the titles Embracer, Pathfinder, and Defender. As he was thought to watch over those who travel at night. In the comics, Khonshu is, and in Egyptian mythology, is a god of the moon. So, like we said before, Mark serves as the fist of vengeance, right? You know, and goes around doing things, protecting the night. You know, at nighttime, Moon Knight's out, and he's protecting everybody. He's doing what Khonshu says. Now, as far as we see in this show and in the comics, Mark, all the alters, whoever have a conscientious, I think that's the word, whatever.
Conscious?
No, conscientious, like a beef and relation. Contentious relationship with poor Khonshu. Not poor Khonshu, poor them, because Khonshu is giving them the work as he does in this, as we see in the first episode. It's straight up like a father and a stepchild type relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A bad father and a stepchild type relationship.
I don't want to say Goku because Goku's so jovial, but he's a bad dad.
Bad dad. All the way bad dad.
And that monster is Khonshu, right? Or that thing that we're seeing with that eagle head, or the eagle, what is it, skull?
Yeah, Stroll is Khonshu.
Or Ibis skull. I'm not sure.
Ibis Stroll, yeah. And that's how it's depicted, that in the suit. That's how Raven. That's how Khonshu is depicted in the Jeff Lemire series too. When he shows up and has these discussions with Mark and with Steven, and we will see all that coming up, and we see some of that in this first episode where Khonshu is barking on him throughout this episode, basically like get your hands up, you know, do all this, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And it's true to the comic. I'm loving it. F. Murray Abraham's doing a brilliant job as him. I did kind of feel like it was a little bit of Venom voice at some points, but that's just F. Murray Abraham. I know he doesn't do Venom, but I think it's just that fact that he's barking on him the same way Venom was barking on Eddie Brock. So
right.
Yeah.
And speaking of barking on him, this actually reminds me of a point I meant to make about the DID, right? Dissociative identity disorder. And this is what I mean when I say there's a comedic effect here, but done. And I said this on Twitter that there's smart comedy here because you see, just out of plain disrespect, people calling Steven multiple names out of his name and also just shit that isn't his name. And it's actually, in many ways, for some of them, an unbeknownst dig at his true mental disorder, right? Of having DID. And for people like Khonshu who fucking know what the fuck is going on. It's just rude, right? Like,
yes,
the director, the museum director or whatever she is, she calls him Stevie. The like he even asks her, "Hey, my name is Steven," and she ignores him. The guard calls him Scotty, which has nothing to do. It's not even close, and just continuously calls the man Scotty. Khonshu has several names for this man. Calls him the Worm, the Body, just to refer to Steven as a body, just as a shell that is to be used. He calls him the Idiot. He calls him stupid, and the coup de grace, Parasite. Which I think is hilarious because we're sitting here trying to figure out who is the true author, who's the true main person. So who is really the parasite here?
That is also true because if he's calling him the body, that would seem to indicate that Mark is the parasite. If Steven was the original owner of the body.
Right.
Or is he saying, he also says give him back the body. So he's like, you know.
Well, I thought he meant give it back in that moment. He didn't mean like give it back like it belonged as terms of ownership.
Oh, no, I think he means give it back in general. Like he'd much rather be done with Steven than dealing with Mark. He has no use for Steven. Mark is what he needs.
Steven ain't got no hands.
None. No. I mean, no, not really. Yeah. Little to none. Let's go there. Little to no hands. Yeah.
But that's wild disrespectful. Just the way, like, I was like, every time I kept track of all the names that Khonshu was calling him because I was just like, damn, like he was like just that constant barrage of belittlement and dehumanization. I'm like, what does that do to a person, especially to a person who this is probably, at least from what we see, this is the first time he's hearing these voices.
Mm-hmm. But that's Khonshu. That's definitely Khonshu from the comic books. And also, it's the idea of a god, you know, who is moving in ways that we are not going to understand and who is not going to care about anything that we're dealing with because it's existing on a scale that we cannot even begin to conceive. You know, you got to think of how long living just alone this thing is.
Yeah.
Compared to us. So,
That's pretty fucked up.
Yeah. Sorry, bro. You know, what you are to him. I mean, look, you know, you gonna let. I mean, if JB, the security guard over here, is calling you whatever, you think I ain't gonna call you whatever, fam? I'm a god, and you letting that man talk to you anyways.
You know, this reminds me. You've seen Death Note, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this reminds me of the gods in Death Note, just like how they treat. Like they have humans that are basically doing their bidding, but like at the end of the day, they're the ones who are essentially going to just live on no matter what. And they're looking at these people like puppets, like, oh, you're an idiot, you're this, you're that.
Yep.
You know, like, it's just, I don't know. It's just, like I said, I just thought about it for a while. Ryuk, that's his name. I mean, like Khonshu reminded me of Ryuk.
I mean, speaking again, you know, we don't concern ourselves with the matters of ants.
But you're using me for your purposes, though. So I must be important in some way.
We use cows for our purposes, too.
Damn. So now you calling Mark? Now you calling Steven a cow? God, he can't get rid of it. Can't get rid of it. All right, let's move on to Arthur Harrow.
Throw him a chicken. You know, I mean, we use chickens too.
Please, delicious. But let's move on.
Damn sure are.
Move on to Arthur Harrow, played by Ethan Hawke. I think Ethan. I mean. Like you're gonna say what you're about to say, but I again, just what I see, I had said it already. He's the big time cult leader here.
Man's stressed
to say the least. He is revered as a deity in his village. He has that cult leader archetype. He has an established following of people everywhere. Like I call them the Egyptian Hail Hydra because literally when Arthur showed up at the museum and here comes stupid Steven like asking for help for people who work there, and they turn around and show him their tats and they say hail Ahmed or whatever they say about Ahmed the god, and I'm like, God damn, y'all praise Ahmed. I'm like, y'all part of it too? Like this was the fucking Egyptian Hydra, I'm telling you. So he got peoples everywhere is what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Yeah. How many secret societies does the Marvel universe have at this point, fam? Like they got the Flag Smashers, everybody who down with them. They got Hydra. They got the Praise Ahmed crew. I'm sure I'm missing, you know, at least a dozen.
I mean, Earth 616 is a giant high school, and these are all of the these are all of the clubs.
I'm telling you though, there's mad overlap.
You can be part of all the different clubs.
Yeah, if I'm saying if you're a goon, you know, you're like, if you're a low level goon, you have to overlap, you know, because you got to get all your benefits, right? You got to be able to like, yo, I need some of what they doing over there. Then I'm gonna join Hydra. You know what I mean? I'm just a low level goon trying to make a living out here in the MCU. So
the Madripoor mob. I mean, like I'm just making
there
that
we go.
up. But like,
no, I mean that's another one. The Power Brokers crew. There is too. I mean, it's not too many, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes right now.
Yeah. Interesting in the way that this character was introed. He was intro right before the title sequence where it says Marvel Studios. They and this is kind of like a sub theme, but the idea of walking on broken glass. I found out after the fact that it's actually the name of a song from the early 90s. But as it relates to this show, it could be seen as Harold's form of self-flagellation. For those who don't know what that is, it's typically done for religious disciplines. It's used to show spiritual discipline as well. It's when you literally like whip yourself or cause physical harm to your body in some way, but to show that you are spiritually above the physical, that you're above your body, that you are devoted, all this other stuff. And what we see Arthur doing is he drinks out of a glass, he smashes the glass with his cane, puts all of the shards into his shoes, to each of his shoes. Then, and I got so squeamish when this happened. He steps into each shoe and walks. And that's a powerful fucking opener because like I said, I gasped, right? I grabbed the pearls and everything because I was just like, hey, yo, whose man's is this, right? And it's a couple things happening. Like yes, it's just squeamish and it's just like tells you, yo, this man is about it, right? He's disciplined and perhaps he's walking around in pain all the time, right? Maybe he's trying to match his physical pain with his mental anguish, right? It's also reminding me of a practice called glass walking, where literally it's about the challenge of like the mind-body connection. It's average, and you might have seen this, like it used to be real big, I guess early 2000s, but it's literally advertising an event for people to help face their fears. It's supposed to improve or maintain focus. Literally, there's just shards of broken glass put on a walkway, and you're supposed to like become one with your mind or something like that and walk across. And the people who are really good at it, they just don't get a scratch on them. It doesn't hurt and all this other stuff. Me, myself, personally, I find it creepy as fuck. For sure. But also, I think it's a great, besides just kind of just expressing where Arthur is just psychologically, it's a great auditory reference, too, of him as a character, right? Because you hear him coming. Every time he steps, it's that crunching, palatable sound of broken glass with every freaking step. And all I kept thinking of, this is going into his skin. This is going to his skin. I don't know if I've stepped on glass before and it was a small, tiny bit and I couldn't take it. So I couldn't just imagine shoes full of it.
It's not a good life.
You just on some other stuff. You on a different level.
No, and once again, it's great writing because once again, it's visual and you see everything. There's not a word spoken in that sequence.
Not a word.
You immediately know everything you need to know about who Arthur Harrow is as a person.
It's just wild. And we also learned that because he keeps repeating it, he has just a percentage, just a small portion of the god Amit's power. And you see that when he's holding the lady's hand, he's judging, you see that he has this tat of scales. Yep. And you actually see the scales start moving because it's weighing the person's heart, deeming if a person is worthy to, as he says, to see the new world that they're going to build. And it's really prejudging people before they commit a wrong. And I was just like, here we go. We're in Minority Report all over again. Because what he's doing is he's a precog. This is pre-crime. And the concept of pre-crime is wrong as hell. It's the idea that, like...
Is it, though?
So basically, you're telling me that this is the idea that humans don't have free will and they can't change. So you're telling me, I foresee, Benhameen, that you're going to commit a heinous crime in 20 years. I'm icing you right the fuck now. In the icebox you go.
You was who you was when you got here. You can try and change, but that's just the top layer.
So, that's the debate, right? Can you change who you are as a person? Is your life predestined? Is your path already written? And it's kind of fucked up because, like, if you're doing this you're doing this because he seems like he says, who's like it's like it was a game show. Who's the lucky person today? Who's gonna see they die today? Right? And I only see adults, but like, is he doing this for children too?
Yes. Eventually.
And so you're questioning me about whether pre-crime really is wrong. Is it wrong if it's a child?
Look.
See, Ben, I mean, this is what I'm talking about. This is the slippery slope I'm talking about.
Look, like I said, I don't know if he's just not selling me on it, but I don't agree, you know, I don't feel him like, because someone else is like, yo,
this shit is fucked up.
But I feel Thanos.
And then you're telling me I don't, but you're also telling me I don't have, with this idea that I'm going to judge you now. And even if you said you've been good all your life, like the old woman says, don't matter. He said, you know what? It's probably going to be something you're going to do in the future. Nigga, she's like 102 years old. What the fuck else she going to do in the next 6 months that is that heinous?
Hey, it's also only her narration that lets you know she's good.
He said, I believe you, but you might do something in the future.
Yeah. You know, he said, I believe you, but really, though, I don't.
Yeah. Well.
But also, yeah, I mean, like I say, I don't trust Harrow from the gate. I don't feel that what he's doing is, you know, altruistic, or he's like, this is doing, you know, I feel like he's just murdering people.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
On his head, on his face, he's just murdering people, saying because Ahmed told me to.
Yeah.
And what is that? Is some psycho cult leadership.
Yeah. And if I say I feel like Thanos, up until the Avengers F up his plan, was really about what he was saying. Like, nah, he's like, you know, it might have not been the most sensible because he could have doubled the rations or whatever, but he was just like, nah, you know, I'm just going to eliminate half the people and that'll save the universe.
Right.
Like,
right.
that's what I feel, you know, this dude is like, I'm going to eliminate all the bad people who have heaven on earth. But I don't believe that's what he's about. I believe he's like, yeah, I like killing people.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And this concept of weighing souls, the scales of justice, just sound and look very familiar to you all because, like I said, if the first place that it was really plentiful was within Egypt, it had spread out through many different cultures. Mm-hmm. Because I do know for a fact, like from the Egyptian mythology and the concept of weighing someone to judge their fate, like that be the symbol of Lady Justice, yep. Justia or DK, or is it pronounced Dyke? I don't know, but in the Justita is Roman, and the other name is Greek. But the idea of justice is blind and holding up the scales with the sword, that whole personification, that dated back to the Egyptian mythology behind it. And in the Egyptian mythology, like you said, the heart is weighed against the feather. Mm-hmm. And the feather represents the goddess Maat, which is the goddess of truth and justice, right? So a lot of that stuff gets trickled down into later cultures. Even when the weighing of the souls motif that happens again in medieval Christianity, and like I said, when you go in front of a judge, when you're in court, you see Lady Justice on all the symbols everywhere, and that idea that this man, that's why I'm with you, Ben. Like, he could sit there and deem someone unworthy, and he has the power to take away their life essence because homegirl got shriveled up, similar to how them witches Agatha Harkness was shriveling up the rest of them people. Getting that power
when they were stealing power from people. So he's just stealing power from people.
Now, in the story of Egyptian mythology, when people are weighed and if they're judged and they're judged by Anubis, if they're judged as not being worthy, Ammit devours their soul. And I would imagine devouring of the soul gives you type of energy or power of some sort. Mm-hmm. So there's some bullshit afoot.
Yep. Most definitely.
About that.
And speaking of Ammit, even though Ammit isn't a character that we hear from in this episode, Ammit is an actual Egyptian god. And Ammit was a demoness and goddess in ancient Egyptian religion with the forequarters of a lion, the hindquarters of a hippopotamus, and the head of a crocodile. And Ammit was not worshipped. All right, that's the thing. You know, Ammit was not the one.
Devourer of the dead, eater of hearts, great of death. These are some of the terms and titles. Yes. She was a funerary deity. Like, yes. It was just like, fuck, if I don't make it, this man is about to eat me. I can't call him man. It's a goddess, but goddess is about to eat me alive. And they called it the second death. The true death.
So this man walking around talking about praise Amit is like all on the wrong, like, you know, just like a white man, right? You know, finds a religion and don't understand it, you know, starts preaching some nonsense when they ain't even know what, you know, oh, this is what the Kool-Aid's made of. Not really,
sounding very suspicious.
Yeah, sounding super suspicious. You know, I mean, this is true to life, boy.
Yeah. And it's interestingly, when you said that Amit is depicted with the head of a crocodile, there's a two-headed crocodile on Harrow's cane.
Yes, sir.
That consists of the handle of the cane.
Also, his hair is terrible.
Neither here nor there. Hair's mad thin.
Yeah, fam. I get it.
He's
He's stressed and everything, but fam, you gotta do something about that. You're supposed to be a cult leader. Get it together.
And Ben, just to take it on home with Amit, and this is something I had read. Amit was not worshipped.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, she embodied all that the Egyptians feared because it threatened to bind them to eternal restlessness if they did not follow the principles of truth and justice.
Yes, sir.
So this man's on his colonizer bullshit.
Pretty much.
We also have Layla El Fuli, and I hope I pronounced the name right, played by May Kalamui, who's the voice on the phone, which I believe this is the character of Marlene Alone. Elaine Alorn? I don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, it's
Marlene in the comics.
That's still to be seen because Layla is so brand new that it depends on where they go. You know, Marlene is Marlene. Layla might just be.
Okay. So maybe there's concepts of this character.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What we find out of her is she has been texting and calling Mark for months to no avail because even though Steven picks up, she's like, Mark, where you been? All this other stuff. And Steven's talking in his, as Benhameen is now saying, it's probably a horrible North British accent.
I didn't say horrible. I said interesting.
Well,
questionable.
The people you questioned were not giving me good vibes that they agreed with it. But anyway, she's confused by, quote unquote, Steven. She's confused by this voice. She's like, why are you talking like this? Who are you?
Yep.
And where have you been?
Mm-hmm.
We got Donna, played by Lucy Thackeray. And listen, I'm just gonna say she's a bitch.
But
I also understand, like, maybe there's reasoning behind how bitchy she is to Steven.
Yes.
Because he could have a history of being a troublemaker, right? The way she comes at him, she's exasperated with him, meaning, to me, I say, okay, well, maybe there's history that this man is not unreliable, right? He's not doing his job like he should. Apparently, Mans is always late. And I had said also, like, maybe it's not really clear if Steven ever expressed that he has a disorder, and maybe she would give him some more grace if he did, but you know, maybe he didn't. Doesn't matter. The fact is she treats him a certain way, which maybe indicates that there is history that she just don't really fuck with him because he's not one of the good ones. But I don't know. It just still gave me, and maybe again, because I see all the other side of him, it just gave me like, why are you being such a bitch to him, dog?
Oh, not me. Not me. Like I said, Steven's, you know, garbage in many different ways. And I feel like I keep saying,
but like I'm saying, you keep saying garbage. Like it's just because just doesn't stand up for himself.
Yeah,
because he's done wrong. He doesn't done wrong to people, is what I'm saying.
No,
like,
but
the way he's being treated is like he's done wrong to everybody.
But from her perspective, who knows, right?
Because
remember, there's other personalities stepping in and doing all kind of wildness. Who knows what Steven's done in the past?
This is true. He could have did some wild shit to her that really just set her off.
Mark might have came in one day like, yo, what's up, baby? You know, and then the next day, you know, Steven comes back and she's like, yo, I was feeling that. And he's like, what are you talking about? You know?
Yeah.
Who knows?
True. But the way she treated that guy is, like I said, I'm just trying to figure out where that energy comes from. But we do know she doesn't give a shit about about Steven's vast knowledge of Egypt. Doesn't matter how much intellect he displays there. She's like, you are never going to be a tour guide. Stop fucking asking me. He even says that crushed him. I'm like, this man is such.
Look, did you see the tour guides they had working in this museum? You know what I mean? There's a certain level. Look. You know, look, I get it's Oscar Isaac and all, but he ain't, you know, Steven ain't Oscar Isaac. Yeah. You know what I mean? He looking sloppy.
Yeah, it was, I know. And I mean, I don't know. But she was just kind of rude. She was also in his business when she was like, so you bagged her?
Yeah, I mean, I was like, where did she come from?
That's what I'm saying. And that's why I'm just like, yeah, there may be an excuse as to why she allegedly treats him the way she do. But to me, she's OD. Like, it's just certain things she's doing. I'm just like, girl, like, relax.
That was super OD because she just like, I'm like, damn, get out of my business, shorty. Like, stop. Like,
come on, bro. And like, you be in my business one moment, like you trying to be my friend, but then you telling me, oh, nigga, you on inventory, you ain't getting out of it. Like, okay, fam. Like, I know you hate me. I get it.
I'm just trying to get up to lettuce, fam. You know what I mean?
Damn.
Like, yeah.
We have JB, the security guard. I don't know who he's played by. I don't think he's come up yet in the cast listing.
Nah.
We have the gold living statue. The living statue that's man made out of gold who kind of, I guess, looks like a long-haired John Lennon almost or something else going on. I'm sure we're gonna figure out what's going on with that one. But that's the person that Steven talks to. And again, this is like, why are you talking to someone who's not talking back to you? But I guess he feels like this is the only person. He's the only person that listens.
And doesn't disrespect him.
Yep. Because he doesn't react. Which is then also goes back to about, is he talking to his mom or not? He's not getting any feedback. He's just talking. You also have animals galore in Marvel. Gus, the one-finned wonder. That's Steven's goldfish.
I got a wild question about Gus. When was he one fin, dog? I watched it several times. I just see two. Is he talking about the fin on top of him or the fin back? So he had two fins.
He got a small Nemo type fin because he's kind of swimming a little sideways, like Nemo swimming like.
It was two fins. He always had two fins.
It was small. Like, I guess it wasn't as prominent.
I don't know what this man was talking about, though. I just saw that the fish was swimming a little sideways. I saw two fins. I didn't get it.
Listen, I don't know. But he says he's a one-fin dude. You see the fish tank is filled with replicas of artifacts or items from ancient Egypt. Like, you see the Great Pyramid. You see the obelisk. You see a Khufu ship, which is just an ancient Egyptian ship. Typically, like, they do, like, different... what do they call? Not scenarios, but different... I don't know the word I'm looking for, but it's an ancient Egyptian ship. You see Nefertiti's bust. You see, I think, as an entrance to her tomb down there. And because the camera just lingered down there, I'm like, this is going to come into play later.
I think all that was from the gift shop, too.
Yeah, it could just all be stuff in gift shop justice. And it was just further showing you just how deeply he's into Egypt. I mean, the man has sand of all things around his bed to show whether or not there's footsteps or whatever. And when he does like flip out because he sees that as Gus has two fins, and like you said, maybe he always had two fins.
That's what the woman told him.
Right? She's like, I've never. She says, I don't sell fish that are missing fins.
Yeah.
Whatever. The thing about goldfish is, even if they are like they do lose a limb, they can, or a fin, they can grow it back.
Yep.
Because when she was all confused about you're saying it regenerated, well, actually, technically, they can.
That wasn't a goldfish, though. That was like some orange something, but. That joint had two fins throughout the episode, dog. I watched it several times. I don't know what he was talking about.
It looked like his two fins. Like I said, it was swimming a little sideways.
This man was smoking.
I don't know, but also it could be allegory to Steven himself, right? Like the idea of having two personalities. He was like, it always had two fins. It always had two alters. There was always multiple things going on with this person. Who knows? All right.
That man had two fins, though.
There are four lights. Like, this is this Star Trek shit all
the
over
dress
there.
was blue. Look.
All right. Let's close out with our Easter eggs, inspirations, as well as music. In the opening sequence, again, with that eerie, freaky scene of Harold putting the glass into his shoes, a song called Every Grain of Sand by Bob Dylan plays. The lyrics align with the series and what I imagine to be Harold's path as a character, right? Like, it's basically talking about what you said, Ben. Like, you've been through it all. You've been through like you basically been through all this self-punishment and all this other stuff, and it's just not an uplifting song, to say the least. It's very depressing. I don't know if you listened to it or if you had anything else to say about this song.
No, that's about it. Okay. But that's most of Bob Dylan's music to me.
Yeah.
Great writer.
Yeah, like, I gazed into the doorway of temptation of angry flame. I've gone from rags to riches into sorrow. Like, I'm just like, God damn, this is depressing. So that's that first song. Then when we meet Steven in his intro sequence, the song A Man Without Love plays by Engelbert Humperdinck. That is
Engelbert Humperdinck. Yeah.
That's a name. Wow.
It damn sure is. A rapper once said that in a rhyme. I can't remember it. That's how I know that name because they're like something like Engelbert Humperdinck, and they made it rhyme too.
Okay, that's his real name.
I think it's Q-Tip who did that.
Q-Bert.
Yeah, I got birded, but yeah, I think it's Q-Tip who something like Engelbert Humperdinck. I can't remember who that was. I gotta look that one up. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this one is a very like it's sounding a romanticized sounding type song. And again, you have lyrics and a vibe that seems to match this character. I think there is some mention of moonlight, and a man without love. Lonely is a man without love. And every day I wake up, I start to break up. I cry my heart out. So again, just some simping ass shit. And it's very Steven. It's very on brand for him.
Mm-hmm.
Steven, when he leaves the museum for the night, we hear Kosara play which is originally composed by an Egyptian artist called Bali Hamdi.
Yeah,
Bali Hamdi.
Yeah, I've known this song since Big Pimpin' came out.
Okay, and it's sampled it's actually sampled in Jay-Z's Big Pimpin', which is produced by Timbaland. As soon as I heard it, I just started singing Big Pimpin', even though this was like the original sample.
Yep, and Timbaland got sued over that because he did not want to let people know where he got it from and wanted to act like he actually did.
Well, they said that what the lawsuit was about is because I read about this. To use it, they paid EMI, the company that owned the rights that owns the economic rights to that song. They paid $100K to EMI in order to use that sample. So for all we know, they cleared it. There was no issue. But then later, Hamdi's nephew, I believe his nephew, came out and did the suit, put the suit out there. It's like, hey, yo, y'all didn't answer y'all because Timbaland altered the song. He said, "Oh, that affects the moral rights of the song, and you were supposed to get our permission first before you did that." A court ultimately ruled, "Nah, son, the economic rights belong fully to EMI, and this is outside of Egypt, so there's no reason why niggas need to ask you for permission."
Or the moral rights, really. That's what it's all about.
Or even moral rights. It was like, look, they paid EMI, they did what they were supposed to do economically. Have a great day.
Hold that. All right. Yeah, in the chase sequence when they're in the car, we hear "Wake Me Up Before You Go" by Wham, which is, fucking classic. Like, everybody knows that joint. And it also works to, once again, to the "Wake Me Up." And it's such a silly, lighthearted, fun song,
With some wild, violent shit happening.
Yes, with some wild, violent shit happening. So it's that great contradiction and worked, excellent to me in that scene.
Right. Everything is a dream in this. And again, and it's also done for a comedic effect because, like you said, it's such a jovial song happening on this wild time. And then also, like, you see an old lady giving the finger. Like, I was just like, yo, they on some other shit with this show. When Steven is scrolling, like, he finds that burner phone in his wall. He's scrolling through it, and you see Layla a billion times, and then you see a name, Duchamp. That could be a reference, or is probably a reference to Jean-Paul Duchamp, which is a name of, I guess, his bestie in the comics.
Yeah,
Mark Spector's bestie.
Jean-Paul Duchamp, a.k.a. Frenchie, is a Frenchman who, in like the original and early Adventures of Moon Knight, was basically like his Alfred. He would fly the copter, but he was like the young, suave, smooth, ass-kicking Alfred. So he was more of a sidekick to Moon Knight, but he would fly the copter, help him out on missions, etc., etc. In later versions, it's debatable if Frenchie is even a person or just yet another figment of Mark Spector's imagination. Yep.
Oh my
God.
Yeah. Okay. This is getting really deep.
Comic shit. It's like, every writer's like, how can I make this worse for this character? And that's what they do.
Right. Yeah. Film inspos galore in this first episode. I got hints, and even the directors confirmed this, or the writer rather, the head writer confirmed this. There's elements of Ghostbusters here, elements of Indiana Jones. That's kind of obvious. The Mummy, just being chased by the jacket, just being chased by all these random things. The concept of horror films. You have mad jump scares. You running from sounds, running from things in the dark, seeing things that aren't there. Even though it's a symptom, it's a psychosis. It's still things that are greatly used in horror films.
Yep. Also, like we shouted out before, gotta shout out Legion, the FX show, which featured mutants, everything that we know from the X-Men, and the character Legion from the X-Men, and a super unreliable narrator, as well as various depictions of various mental illnesses on that show. So it dives deep, and I would highly encourage everyone to watch it as well.
Yeah.
And also another point about that, the Mummy and Indiana Jones I want to make is because when I was watching, I was like, oh, this feels like the Mummy is so silly. And then recently I'd rewatched Indiana Jones. For anyone who thinks like that is shot silly when he does the nuke in the refrigerator, it's silly from the very first one. It's just that Steven Spielberg is such a brilliant director that it doesn't feel as silly. He handles tone shifts a lot better than a lot of people do. And also his direction is just so dope that you're distracted from the silliness of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also a triple reference here when they talk about avatars.
Yeah.
What's his face? Harold mentions avatars of Khonshu and this and that. And of course, Steven responds, "Oh, the big blue things, right? Those big blue people.
The ones Disney owns. Remember,
the ones Disney owns, right?
Yeah.
Wow, damn, Disney owns everything.
Yep.
God damn.
Yeah. Commercial.
The Avatar by James Cameron, the film, and of course, Avatar 2 is coming out soon.
Yep.
So you had to throw that reference in there. Big commercial. Yeah. Also, then when Harold's trying to explain, no, I'm not talking about the big blue people. Steven, hilariously says, "Oh, from the anime, right? Talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender, one of the greatest animated series ever,
which Disney does not own, which is why they did not make a direct reference. Yeah, no direct reference,
right? But we know Avatar: The Last Airbender,
of course.
And then some people argue up and down whether or not it's anime. I don't really care, y'all.
Yes.
And Steven, during that exchange, Harold says that Amit was betrayed by her own avatar. And like I said, this is the third reference of Avatar. An avatar, at least, especially with Egyptian stuff, is the manifestation of a deity. And really with anything, right? Anything that involves gods is the manifestation of a deity or a released soul in bodily form. So, like, if I was the manifestation of a sun god or something like that, right? Like I would be that sun god's avatar, and so on and so forth.
Yep, most definitely.
This is probably just a reach. I saw that Wonder Bomb little air freshener. That's just that's the little tree air fresheners that be in everybody's car in the U.S. It's just called different things overseas. But I saw Wonder and just thought Wonder Gore. I just saw the spelling and just immediately started to think of the Wonder Gore Mountain. For what's her name? For your girl Scarlet Witch. Ben, do you have any other notes?
Nah, I was just, the one that I did have is that Harold is really walking around with them glass feet throughout this whole episode. Like
the whole episode. And every time he's nearby, you hear it. You hear the crunch, crunch, and jeez. I get squeamish just thinking about it.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I think we covered everything else. I did want, we made the note that, Steven's mom.
Yo, it's a lot. It's a lot.
It's tight. It's tight.
So we're gonna be listening. We're not listening, but I guess we are listening. We are gonna be listening to what you all say about how you feel about episode 1 of Moon Knight, starring the great Oscar Isaac. Make sure you hit us up, contact@forallnerds.com. If you want to email us and tell your thoughts, give us some questions. Hit us up on socials as well, @forallnerds, as well as Views from 616 on the Twitters. That's how you can hit us up. Just give us some feedback about what you heard from us today, about what we thought about all the different characters, what we think is going to happen going forward. Make sure you're following us @Views from 616. Again, make sure you're following us on your favorite podcast platform. We are everywhere. There's no excuse. Spotify, all them places @ForAllNerds. That's how you get Views from the 616. I'm @Tatiana King. He's @DJ Benhameen. Make sure you're following us directly. So if some particular troubles you have with something we said or something that we're learning, remember, we're learning to a lot of this stuff too. So please give us some grace, especially when it comes to the mental health stuff. That being said, we are working on bringing some people who know more than us in this space so that we can have some informed understanding of what we are talking about. Make sure if you like what you see right now, we are the Wong Was Right twins. We're wearing our Wong Was Right tees from our TeePublic page, teepublic.com/stores/forallnerds. Please pick up one of your favorite designs there. Everything you do, everything you purchase on that page goes right back into the podcast, right back into our brand, is how we pay for our staff and how we do great things with this brand. Also hit us up on the Patreon, patreon.com/forallnerds. I'm telling y'all now, you need to get on the Patreon ASAPtually because y'all are going to get things ahead of other people. Let's just say that.
As well as special, only exclusive to Patreon episodes that we've been dropping.
So if you about that life, please get on that. And if you're not about that life and you don't even care about that, you're just trying to help us out financially, do that too, because every tier is important. And again, we are self-funded. This is how we are able to be here and do great things and put in the work. So thank you so much to everyone, to our fam, everyone who has been supporting us or will support us. We appreciate you. We weigh you and judge you as just. Thank you. Anything else before we get out of here, Benhameen?
Most definitely. Do remember that we are now every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, broadcasting live. Views from the 616, reviewing Moon Knight. You're probably watching this right now because you're one of the great ones. So thank you. Let your friends know. Thank you to everyone who's joined us tonight. And do remember, every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're bringing it to you fresh out the oven. Episodes drop on Wednesdays. We right here on Thursdays. Boom. What you know about that?